This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Your exclusive radio home of the Utah Mammoth is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Now it's time to hear from the head coach of the Mammoth, André Tourigny.
Time for our weekly conversation with the head coach of the Utah Mammoth, the Stanley Cup Playoff bound Utah Mammoth. André Tourigny joins us right now live. Coach, congratulations on this achievement. I know there's a lot to come and a lot you still want to accomplish, but that had to feel special last night, finally making this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels really good for everybody. You know what I mean? It's You're in the trenches, you're battling, you're fighting for it, but you make a step back and you realize that impact a lot of people. They impact our family, impact the people everywhere in our office, CG, our ownership, our coaches, our player, our staff, our trainer. Everybody worked really hard or cheer the team for a long time for that to happen. So to push the cart across the finish line feels really good.
You know, Coach, we're pretty spoiled here in Utah because we've been able to enjoy the fruits of your labor that you guys started back in Arizona. And we're like, wow, is this how it is all the time? You always make the Stanley Cup playoffs? But I know this was a long and arduous process for you and a lot of the staff and a lot of players on this team. That had to make last night even more rewarding because this has been something that's taken a lot to accomplish. Yeah,
they're like one of my players told me yesterday, and I really like that. He said there were a lot of deep water in that process, and we've been through that deep water together, and we fought it through together, and really proud of them, really proud of all our players, really proud of our organization to become a destination, to have guys waiving their no-trade clause to play for us, the guys signing as a free agent to play for us. There are guys signing long-term with us. There's our fans are showing up every night. There's our organization who has brought a lot of energy every day. Our ownership will build us an unbelievable practice facility, will give us all the tools to succeed. So there's a lot into it. Our management who made our team better every year, starting with Bill, but all the pro scout and then the advanced stat department, the high performance, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of people, a whole state push in the same direction to make that thing happen. So it's really rewarding to achieve that all together.
Yeah, man, you talk about everybody involved. There's a lot of firsts for everybody in this scenario, especially your team. There's a lot of guys who's first in this situation. Even the last 4 games of the season, we can't, just disappear that just because we clinched. But how do you handle? How do you coach? How do you go into, talking to these guys about this moment, right? First from even some of the coaching staff, first from the players, how they go and handle this moment, of the intensity of going into the playoffs?
Well, first of all, when you expect something, do you talk about it a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the sense of we were expecting it. We worked for it. We believed in ourselves. But that's the first thing we said at the training camp. I said, every year you start a season, you're excited. You're excited, and you think you can. This year we were excited, but we were confident. We were not hoping. We were not saying we hope to play meaningful game or whatever. We were confident. We were kind of, what you talking about? We got this. We believe in ourselves. So now it's happening. We're not kind of hey, let's talk about it. No, we expect it for the last year. We expect it for the last 79, 78 games. So it's not like it happened and we didn't see it coming. Right. We were expecting that. We were confident. We're happy, but we're not satisfied. The goal is not just I assume we make the playoff, they put an X on we stop. No, we don't stop. We want to keep building playoff habits. We want to be a better team in 4 games than what we are right now. We want to arrive in the playoff and keep grinding our way. So we don't want to stop there.
This 5-game streak has been incredible. A lot of goals. You beat 2 of the best teams in the league in back-to-back games. What's clicking right now during this streak? What is, from your observation, we're watching the games and we're enjoying it, but you understand everything that's going into this technically, changes that are made, adjustments that are made. What has been done to allow this team to take things to another level over these last 5 games?
Well, it's just one more step. It's like you tell me, okay, on that marathon, what happened in the last kilometer? Who made you win? Well, it's the first 41. We did a good job. So we arrive I'm talking in the last sprint. Mm-hmm. You just keep going what you build for the last whatever number of miles. So it's just a continuity. So we kept doing the same thing, just a little bit better. You don't change what you do. You do the same thing, but you do it just a little bit better. We're a little bit quicker in our execution, a little bit quicker at closing in the puck carrier. We create a little bit more turnover. We manage the puck a little bit better. We have a little bit more net presence. Our D are a little bit better at putting pucks at the net and finding lanes and so on and so forth. We're just a little bit better at everything, and we expect in 4 games to be even a little bit better at all those little things.
Man, I love that. Earlier you mentioned the crowd, and packing this home arena. I was at the game last night and I was excited. It was absolutely electric. Oh, yeah. Can you talk about how important it is and to have that crowd and how important it's going to be for this crowd to be there come playoffs?
I think you need to realize how fortunate you are. When you have a day was tougher at work and where you need to grind it a little bit more and you need to find that little juice, you have a packed building who's cheering you up and will push for you and give you that love, that emotion, that passion, that cheer you need. It just gets you over the edge. And you can see how passionate our fans are and how much they care about the team and how much it means for them. So I just give us the little extra you need when push comes to shove.
Coach, I know that one game is one of 82, and you have to treat them all the same, and I totally understand that. But it felt different on Tuesday night against Edmonton from our perspective as media, from the fans. Maybe it wasn't the case for you guys, but how important was that game in particular to get that win over that team in front of your fans?
That was huge. For whatever reason, we did not play the way we wanted against them in the last year or the last 2 years, I could say. And that was one of the reasons. The other reason is where we were in the standing and the team behind us were pushing as well. And you want to keep rolling as a team. We won our 2 games on the road, but now we're coming back in front of our fans, and we have had some difficulty in the previous 3-4 games at home. So we wanted to have a great game, and I think our guys were really focused, and it did not start the way we wanted, not in terms of performance, but we were playing well, but they took the lead 3-1, and our guys stayed focused, and they stayed composed, and they were capable of coming back in the game. So that was huge for us. That was a really good statement for us.
You got the playoff spot clinched, but there's still work to do. You want that wild card number 1 spot, so that still needs to be clinched. And as you mentioned, you want that momentum going into the playoffs. How locked in are these guys right now to accomplish that and stay focused on these last 4 games and not get too caught up in the joy of what happened last night?
That was unbelievable this morning. We got in the video room for our meetings, and that was just another day. And I'm not saying that in the sense it was another boring day. That was the same smile, the same atmosphere, the same sharpness in answering the question. We asked a few things about our game and what we can do better and how we can do better and what's the key points in certain area in our game. And the guys were sharp. They were on task. They were not carried away by the moment. They were just, hey, we're ready for the next day. Where we have a theme here where it's continued improvement. Every day we show up, our objective is to be better. No matter what's the day, when we show up together, we have one objective, and how can we get better today? And today the guys didn't have a different attitude. They didn't have the attitude of anything looking like satisfied or whatever. They were, okay, how can we get better today? And they had their perfect mindset. That was great.
Well, you've got a chance to play a Stanley Cup championship contender on Saturday, hosting the Carolina Hurricanes, who are having a tremendous year. Yeah. How excited are you to see where your guys measure up against one of the best in the East?
Yeah, I think it's well said. I think it's exactly the way we feel. I think it's a team who they apply a lot of pressure. They're on you all the time. They don't let you breathe and stuff like that. So I think it's a perfect moment for us. We want to measure stick. At this point, we just won 2 games at home. We have a chance to go ahead and win another one at home against an elite opponent who play a style who can suffocate you. I'm excited about it. I think that's good timing for us. I like where our guys are mentally and where we're looking forward for tomorrow afternoon.
Nice.
That's going to be a great matchup tomorrow, 3 o'clock at the Delta Center against the Carolina Hurricanes. Coach, congratulations. I know there's so much work to do left, but what a great accomplishment for you and your staff and these players. And you've made this community proud, and everyone's so excited about this. So congratulations on all of it. And, I think the next time we talk to you, we're going to be breaking down a first-round playoff matchup in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I really look forward to that.
Yeah, I agree. That feels pretty good. I like the sound of it.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Oh, man,
Utah Mammoth head coach André Tourigny, the Stanley Cup playoff-bound Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, man. I love everything he says. There's so many universal terms that all sports, and that's what I really like. I know the sports are different, but the mentality that you have to have, in every capacity, from practicing to taking it to game to getting out there in championship moments and getting better every day. Like you can hear that across the board from many different coaches in many different sectors of sport. And so absolutely terrific. As you said, congratulations, Coach Tourigny, because it's been an up and down type of year, but the way that they've played ever since the Olympic break has been absolutely terrific, man. These guys have been on it, and so exciting to watch, man. And I can't wait for this playoff to start for this city. Some real momentum here with this team. Yes. They've only lost 3 games since March 16th, so pretty hot month for them. They had that rough patch. I mean, it feels like a distant memory now, but you remember Chicago, 3-2 lost in overtime. Minnesota lost 5-0 on the road. Lost at Chicago, lost at home against Chicago, 3-2 in overtime, and lost to Pittsburgh 4-3. Since that time, they've only lost 3 games. And so this team is playing great hockey over this past month, exactly when they need to be. And we point out all the things with this team, the goal differential.
this is one of the best teams in the league when it comes to goal differential. Everyone has their opinions on that in hockey. How important is that? I mean, I don't know, but you look at the standings, and the teams that you know are contenders have tremendous goal differential, and the teams that are not are in the red, and this team is very much in the green. 34-plus goal differential. They're only one behind the Minnesota Wild, who have 102 points this year. This Mammoth team is in that group when it comes to talent and accomplishment. They did obviously not have those many points. They've had some ups and downs in the season. Logan Cooley hurt, I think, contributed to that, some of those rough patches. And Coach Tourigny talked about it earlier in the season about a need for maturity. Yeah. Not that the guys are immature, like you know the cheese, the cracker commercial where the cheese isn't aged enough, and it's just making stupid, dumb jokes. It's like the cheese needs to grow up. No, not that kind of immaturity. They needed to grow as a team and as a franchise and take another step when it comes to the tiers in the NHL. And I feel like they've done that in the month of March. You mentioned it. You said, like, lately they've just been, ever since that break, ever since the Olympics, this team has been one of the best teams in the NHL, and that's certainly the case. And you look around the league, and their goal differential backs that up. Even in the East, there's only 3 teams in the East that have better goal differential. I should say 4 teams in the East that have better goal differential. No, 3. They have now passed the Pittsburgh Penguins for in that goal differential statistic. So only 3 teams in the East have better goal differential, and those 3 teams are Buffalo, Tampa Bay, and Carolina, who they will play on Saturday. And in the West, it's Colorado, it's Dallas, and it's the Wild by 1, and then it's Utah. When it comes to goal differential and a lot of analytics, this Utah Mammoth team is among the top third of the league right now, and they're playing that way. This team has a chance, and because of the way the format works, look, a lot of teams are getting screwed by this playoff format. If I'm Dallas and Minnesota, I'm like, this is a joke.
Hating it.
We are 2 of the 3 best teams in the West. We're 2 of the top 5 teams in the whole entire NHL, and we're playing in the first round. Are you kidding me? I get it. I understand it. It's kind of dumb. I understand people that say the playoff format needs to change. If the format actually did change, the Utah Mammoth would be in a 4-5 game against the Edmonton Oilers. So funny how that would work. But they could potentially have home ice advantage in that series.
Yeah.
Both at 90 points right now. So that new playoff format could benefit the Utah Mammoth. But I say that and bring that up because we have a NBA frame of reference. So you think of the
Yes.
NBA playoffs 1 through 8, right?
Right.
The NHL playoffs are not that way. But if you look at it that way, yes, the Utah Mammoth in that 1 through 8 format, if that actually existed, would be either the 4th or 5th team, 4th or 5th seed in that playoff bracket.
Right.
That's how good the Mammoth are.
Yeah, and these statistics are something you should pay attention to because I think once you hit the playoffs, it doesn't matter. I think we talked like a month ago or whatever about having home ice advantage. I think a lot of teams play great on the road, right? And I think these goal differentials and understanding how tight these teams are. When we do get into the playoffs, you're going to see teams that take advantage of it because, right, you see the teams like the Nashville Predators, they get in, they got a negative 2-point differential. They got, the Vegas Knights is only +7 and Anaheim is negative 14. When you get into these tough battles, as we said, the Mammoth have slow starts but finish strong. That's where these statistics come in and you should be paying attention to. So when we go to the playoffs, you could trust the Mammoth are going to handle business. I know we said we're not Stanley Cup ready, but I definitely think this team could definitely win a couple rounds in these Stanley Cup playoffs and make it really, really exciting here in Salt Lake.
Well, back to that playoff format, and that's why the bracket is so good to the Mammoth this year, is because that number 1 wild card spot puts them in the Pacific bracket, where they're playing, as I keep throwing Cole Bagley under the bus for this, saying the pillow fight in the Pacific for the Pacific Championship. It's not that Pacific, and I think it was, who else told us? I think the Pacific Division, it's the worst division. It's if you add them all up, they're like less than. It was Yost that told us this is one of the worst divisions in quite a while in the NHL. So you're thinking as a Mammoth fan, you don't want to get too far ahead here, and but that's the fun of conversation here on the radio, so we can. I mean, Coach Tourigny's hung up already, so he's not going to get mad at us for bringing this up. But, you can look ahead and see what's possible with this team. And the way they're playing right now, you could absolutely make a run. Now, if you were wild card 2 and you're facing the Colorado Avalanche in the first round, good luck to you. It would be great. It would be a fun series. And we talk about
good luck to
the need for a rivalry to begin, and that would certainly kick that off. But I think you can wait a while before you see the Avalanche in the playoffs. I don't want to see the Avalanche in round 1. Bring on the Oilers. Sure, why not? Let's play Connor McDavid and the Oilers in round 1. Or maybe it's the Golden Knights. You don't have to travel far for that. Might even be easy for some Mammoth fans to go down there and see some playoff hockey. On the road, it's driving distance to go see them play. Maybe you go to Disneyland and the Ducks. That would be fun too. The Ducks are a young team, kind of a lot like the Mammoth that haven't been there for a while, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that Pacific Division shakes out because they all have played 79 games. They all have 3 games left, and there's only a 1-point difference between those 3. I think the Oilers are the favorite there, but the Oilers also have the more challenging schedule of the 3. But you can see a path. If the Mammoth, you'd rather face the Knights than the Avalanche in round 1? Absolutely. So let's say the Knights win the Pacific. I would pick the Mammoth to beat the Golden Knights in a 7-game playoff series. And at that point, you're playing the winner of the Ducks and the Oilers. Round 2.
Why not?
I mean, who knows how that goes, but you feel pretty good about it. I mean, you just saw them beat the Oilers. I mean, would I pick would I pick the Mammoth to beat the Oilers in a playoff series? I can't because they have Connor McDavid. I just can't.
I don't know. The way we played the other night against them, I know they started fast, but it's all about finishing.
It's a 7-game series.
7-game series, right? So you're never out of it. At least stretch it out, right? But I give it a fight. I would take that series for the excitement. I think they're evenly matched teams. I know there's a lot of stars on the Oilers team, but I think that, once we have our stars, we know our guys.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be great hockey to watch, great playoff hockey to have a 7-game series with those 2 teams.
It would be fun. So you get my point is they're playing those teams in the Pacific in the first 2 rounds while the Avalanche, Stars, and Wild are beating each other up on that other side of the bracket. And then if you were fortunate enough to get past one of those Pacific teams and get to a Western Conference final in your first playoff appearance, do you like your chances against the winner of whatever series that is? No. But, man, can you believe getting to the Western Conference Finals? Some would say it's a pipe dream. I don't think so. I think even just looking at how the matchups, it's definitely possible. Again, would I pick the Mammoth to beat the Oilers in the 7-game series? No. But I think it's like 52-48%.
Maybe I'm just the blind optimist here, man. I think it's always
Be the blind
possible.
optimist. That's the fun right now.
I'm there. I'm telling you, watching the team last night, I told you, man, I was like, the team looks strong. They look strong. Like, the Predators are supposed to be somewhat of a contender in here, but they look so outmatched last night from start to finish. And I just think the team is streaking in the right direction at the right time and getting up, and it might be dangerous for anybody they run into in the playoffs. Right. I think they are understanding their roles. Schmaltz is coming in at a perfect time. He is on a scoring tear right now, and he's just doing absolutely awesome things, man. So I don't know, and that's why you have the playoffs. You can't crown anybody before you play those games.
That's right.
And I think the excitement that these guys are playing with right now will catapult them into being in great position and being contenders in the playoffs that'll possibly get you to the Western Conference Finals.
The Utah Mammoth have depth, and I think that's going to come to be a factor in the playoffs as well. So the fact that we're talking about a Stanley Cup playoff series in a week is just insane, and I'm so excited about it.
It's awesome.
A couple things I want to mention before we take a break about this Utah Mammoth team. André Tourigny comes on our show every week, and it's just amazing that in year 2026 we have a professional coach from one of the 4 big leagues willing to come on a show every week and give fans an update on where things are at. So we're grateful for that. But André Tourigny, in his 4 years at the helm of this franchise, 4 or 5 years, his whole time coaching, the team has been better every year.
Right.
The record has improved each and every year, and that's a tribute to him and his staff and for what they're doing. Another interesting stat that is out there now, and as we get to this point where there's only 4 games left for the Utah Mammoth have made history for their franchise, but they could also make some NHL history.
Oh.
They're 4 games away from becoming the first team in the history of the cap era in the NHL to go a full season without having a single game end in a shootout. We have not had one shootout.
All year?
All year. And you're thinking, you probably haven't even noticed or cared.
Right.
Like you go to overtime, and this team's so good in overtime because they have so many great goal scorers that you don't even have to worry about getting to a shootout. But the Mammoth are 4 games away from becoming the first team in the history of the Cap era to go to full season without having a single game end in a shootout. The Cap era coincides, according to this from The Athletic, that coincides with the introduction of the shootout back in 2005. So this is not something that goes back to the Stan Mikita days. You know what I mean? Like this is not from the 50s and 60s, but it goes back 20 years, and it's never happened before in the league. So they introduced the shootout back in 2005, and no team has managed to go a full 82 games without doing that. So another thing to make history in the next week and to watch for the Utah Mammoth as they finish off this season and try to finish off that number 1 wild card spot and get ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Thanks again to head coach André Tourigny for joining us each and every week. We look forward to breaking down a playoff matchup next week with him. And the Utah Mammoth are playoff bound for the first time in franchise history. We have to take a break. When we come back, Utah Jazz playing the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. Both teams trying to not win? We'll discuss that next. Eric Spyropoulos from NBA.com will join us next to discuss what one media pundit is calling the tanking bowl tonight between the Jazz and Grizzlies. We'll discuss that next. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You know what's coming.
Your daily deep dive into everything Utah Jazz.
It's time.
All season long and even in the off season. It's Jazz Daily with JJ and Alex on your exclusive home of Utah Jazz basketball. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Steven Sylvester in for Alex Kirry on this Friday. Taking you into the weekend. Should be a great weekend. Masters going on. Should be a big story over the weekend. And the Utah Jazz are going to end their season. 2 games left in this rebuilding era. Eric Spyropoulos of NBA.com and Utah Jazz joins us now. Eric, 2 games left in this era. I'm sure that everybody with the Jazz and everybody that covers the Jazz is excited for what's to come next.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've kind of heard a few glimpses from Will Hardy over the past couple of weeks. He's been, remaining present on helping the young guys develop over the final stretch of this regular season. But there have been moments where he's talked about, occasionally he'll be on a run or just be kind of, sitting around thinking about next season and all the potential with that group once they're healthy and put together. And, we'll see what happens in the off season. But 2 more games for young guys to get opportunities. And then from that point on, it's on to the draft and building towards next year's team.
What's the magnitude of this game? I don't want to say the magnitude of this loss for both the Grizzlies and the Jazz tonight, but what's on the line for both of these teams? If who wins and one loses, what can flip with these 2 teams by tonight's outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, some of the same stuff that it's been the case for both teams over the past, month or so. It's that kind of lottery positioning. The Grizzlies are in a position where, they don't have any protections on their pick. They don't owe the pick. And so they're basically just trying to maximize their odds of jumping into that top 4. And right now, entering today, they're tied with the Dallas Mavericks for 6th in the lottery standings, or 6th worst record, as you would say. And for the Jazz, I mean, they're, obviously it's well known that their pick is top 8 protected. Right now they are tied with the Sacramento Kings for the 4th worst record. And if they finish with the fourth worst record overall, it's a guarantee that they will keep their pick because they can't fall past 8. If they end up with the 5th worst record by the end of Sunday's games, they will still have a 99.4% chance of keeping their pick, but there is that 0.6% chance that it would fall tonight and go to the Thunder. So the Grizzlies have a little bit more flexibility in terms of their pick. There's no protections. They're just trying to maximize their odds. The Jazz are just trying to make sure that they keep the pick overall.
You're looking at the injury report here, and the Grizzlies have 12 players out, totaling $128.2 million worth of salaries.
Jeez.
And, you know, in all seriousness, the league has got to obviously do something about this. Or maybe they don't. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Of all the things you've heard about when it comes to tanking, is there anything that would actually work, or is this just a product of a great draft and a big number of franchises that are at a crossroads?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's almost both in a way. You know, I think everyone agrees that the league needs to do something to shake up the lottery odds or just the system overall to kind of incentivize winning, basically post-trade deadline, post-All-Star break in a season. However, I do think that, you know, it is maybe being a little bit understated just how great that this top of the draft class is, which doesn't always happen to be the case. You know, you've heard a lot of people talk about the 2027 draft being really weak. And I think that naturally has led to teams, you know, like the Jazz, the Wizards in the Eastern Conference, you know, made those trades for Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and they look like they're going to compete next year. I think a lot of teams are kind of looking at, you know, front offices are always surveying beyond what's right in front of them. It's not always just this year's draft class. They're always looking at next year's draft class, next year's crop of free agents, things of that nature, and take that into consideration when kind of building out their team and building their plan. So I do think the league needs to do something in terms of just, you know, changing the odds enough so that, you know, it incentivizes winning in the second half of the season. But, you know, we had this lottery odds shakeup a few years ago in 2019. It went into effect with the current system, and you know, here we are today with everyone talking about it nonstop. And so you kind of want to make sure you don't, you know, rush into a change that you think will fix the issue, and then 5 years from now, it might be worse. So it's going to be a careful balance, I think, for the league to handle, but they're clearly focused on doing something, you know, this offseason.
I'm curious your opinion on who's increased their draft stock, you know, since that NCAA tournament, right? We got Michigan who won the national championship. They have a lot of transfer-in players that played great together this year, led by Lindenborg, you know, Big Ten Player of the Year. Did he improve his draft stock? And what did the March Madness tournament do for some of those guys before this NBA draft lottery comes to a fruition in June?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting because I don't think much of the, you know, top four has really changed. Yeah. You know, Cameron Boozer had a solid tournament run. Darren Peterson's run wasn't super long. AJ DeBance's run wasn't super long, but AJ had been playing really well towards the end of the season in general, and it seems to have kind of gravitated more towards that number one spot with Darren as the two players most mocked at number one, followed by Cam Boozer. Caleb Wilson, the fourth player on pretty much everyone's boards, was injured and didn't play, you know, down the stretch of the season or in the tournament, obviously. And then you look at a guy like Keaton Wagler, who had a run with Illinois, and obviously, like you said, Yaxel Lendenberg, who also, you know, led Michigan to the national championship. I think those guys are guys who improved their stock. Darius Acuff had a, you know, crazy run leading up to the tournament and some nice games in the tournament as well. He raised his stock. But I think if you're looking at that top four, it's probably still kind of set in stone with those players.
You know, Eric, you've done some great work breaking down Ace Bailey's rookie season. And right now you can go to NBA.com/Jazz and check out what you just wrote about Ace Bailey's growth on both ends during this all-rookie campaign. You've got a video where you've done some film study on Ace Bailey. I'm curious, during this project, what have you learned about Ace Bailey and what he's accomplished his rookie year and what it means for his future?
I think, you know, the thing that was the main takeaway from, I think, not only working on those projects, but also just kind of watching Ace's development over the year is that he, I think, is ahead of speed when it comes to the stuff outside of his scoring. You know, he had a really up and down first half of the year. He was sick in the preseason. That kind of delayed his start. And then he got momentum kind of late November, early December, and then had a hip injury at the end of 2025. And that kind of halted his progress. But over the past 2 months, I mean, obviously you've seen the shot making from three, the big dunks. But I think, you know, his playmaking, his defense are two areas of his game that they won't necessarily always make the highlight reels because he has those dunks and he has these higher scoring games. Mm-hmm. But those are the parts of the game that not only impact winning at a smaller level, but also the parts of the game that Will Hardy is most excited about moving forward. And, you put it all together, how he's just fit into how the Jazz want to play. You see not only a player who can take over a game, but also perhaps more importantly for the Jazz next season, a player that can just thrive within the system, playing off of, the other lead scorers like Alawi Markkanen, Keontae George, and Jaren Jackson Jr. And I think when you put all those aspects together, he's not a well-rounded player right now. He's not the most consistent two-way player right now, but he's 19 years old, and no one expected him to be that this season. But you saw the glimpses of how he could be that player, and that's what's most important for him in the Jazz.
Ace Bailey's a big point, obviously an important part of the Jazz future. This lottery pick they're going to have here shortly is going to be a big part of that future. You look at the rest of the young players in this roster, though, and there's some uncertainty there because as this team transfers from rebuilding mode to playoff mode, they may go all in on getting some veterans in the rotation. What could this mean, and what do the Jazz look like as far as roster building goes moving forward? I'm not asking you to predict what the future is, but how could that change and how could it impact some of these young players on this roster?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the more, outside of what happens with the draft pick and any potential free agent signings, I think the development and the roles for the rest of the young core, Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams, Kyle Filipowski, Bryce Sensabaugh, like how do they next year? How ready are they to contribute to a team that is competing for the playoffs next year? Right. I think those are two huge questions. And quite frankly, it's, we don't know yet. And I think that's going to be, one of the more interesting aspects of probably that first month and a half of next year, assuming all those guys are on the roster, how many opportunities do they get early in the year to prove like, hey, I am ready to fit in with this group. I can contribute to winning right now. They've gotten a lot of opportunities this season. Isaiah Collier, unfortunately, less so over this final stretch due to the hamstring injury, but they've all had flashes of Cody Williams can, impact the game defensively and, score efficiently inside the arc. Kyle Filipowski has a really versatile skill set on the offensive end. Bryce Sensabaugh, elite shooter, but also can kind of do a little bit more off the dribble. And Isaiah Collier, obviously just a change of pace, point guard, speed, playmaking. All of those skill sets can fit into a winning team, but like you said, the Jazz are looking to compete next year. They might look for more veterans, in the summer. It's going to be a real challenge and a real test to see which of those young guys can step up.
As you look at what these young players have accomplished, it's hard to judge because we've been these weird games where they're playing lineups with a lot of guys out and some of the numbers may be a little bloated. It's tough to judge that. But based on some of the study you've done and what you're watching, what is some of the growth of some of these guys like a Bryce Sensabaugh or Cody Williams? How much of that is real and could help the Jazz next season?
I think Cody Williams is like one of the main guys to start with in that conversation because wings are obviously super valuable in today's NBA. Obviously, 3 and D wings are the most valuable, and Cody has not been able to knock the three down consistently. But what he has been able to do is impact the game defensively. And, with his cutting, and he's kind of showed off, more of his mid-range game over the past few weeks and looked pretty comfortable doing so, has been able to kind of generate some offense to stay on the floor. And given his size, his length, and, how the Jazz are looking to compete next year, and obviously that's going to have to come with a lot of growth on the defensive end of the floor, considering how much offensive talent the team will already have, right. Looking at a guy like Cody coming in there just to kind of impact the game defensively and, make some cuts and some, smart plays in transition, you can easily see potentially a role for him on a winning team. Bryce Sensabaugh is an interesting case. Teams need production, especially off the bench offensively. He has been, he's had a little bit of a down year from 3 overall this season, but has been really hot over the past, since the All-Star break, essentially. And if you're looking at, we need a guy who can space the floor for our star players offensively, a guy that if he's in the corner, the defense can't leave him. He can't come over and, provide help defense at the rim. Otherwise, it's a wide open 3 for Bryce Sensabaugh. another role that you can totally see, him filling on a winning team and, the Jazz next season. And Kyle Filipowski can play both, front court positions and can handle the ball, can rebound, can shoot the three a little bit. Again, all these skills that can fit in. And Isaiah Collier, again, similar to Cody Williams and, hasn't developed the three ball, but in transition, he can change the pace of a game on his own. And throughout the course of an 82-game season, that's something you might need.
That's why I think it's interesting. You're talking about possibly doing some more moves in the summer. I'm like, especially with the previous moves of bringing Jaren Jackson, I'm like, this team is pretty nice.
It is.
You have right now. It's like, of course, you got Nurkic and a couple guys who are a little older. You can probably move, but for the most part, this team is pretty set and well-rounded, especially Keontae George stepping up this past season at the point guard position. It'd be interesting what they want to do with veteran moves in the offseason.
Yeah, I think, it might not be a very explosive free agency for the Jazz or even in trade season. Inevitably there'll be a move or two, and, the Jazz should have, access to the mid-level exception, which, in today's NBA can get you a pretty solid rotation player. But I think people will have to remember, obviously Jaren Jackson went down with the surgery in February, but he is, the acquisition for this team. And even a guy like John Conchar has been a solid rotation piece down the stretch and is under contract for next year. So a guy who can fill in some minutes as a veteran guard as well. So, it's hard to say. You can never predict the future, but Jaren Jackson Jr. is a marquee addition for this Jazz squad, and he only got to play in 3 games before going down. That is what fans, I think, need to remember about next year's team is, imagine if, the Jazz traded for him in the offseason. That'd be the talk of the summer, but it happened in February, and so it's kind of been a little bit out of mind. That is what I think fans' mindsets need to be going into the summer.
Eric Spyropoulos, digital writer for NBA.com and the Utah Jazz. You can see his video film breakdowns on YouTube and all of his writing on UtahJazz.com as well. Eric, thanks for joining us. 2 games left. Enjoy tonight and what's left of the season, and obviously it's going to be a much different beat here coming up here shortly.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for having me.
You got it. Thanks, Eric.
Man, it's crazy, exciting, all the feels are going on right now for Jazz fans, right? I'm excited for this season and the tanking to end. I'm excited for the draft lottery and the excitement that brings. I'm excited for JJJ and that trade and what the potential of him and Markkanen and Keontae on the floor at multiple times is going to do for this type of team and the promise of it. So there's just a whole bunch of feelings going on right now if you're a Jazz fan, and rightfully so, man. This is a crazy time of year.
Yeah, I think we want these 2 games to end. It's like
hurry up.
Like Old Yeller.
Hurry up.
Sorry to invoke Old Yeller, but it's time, right?
Out to pasture.
There's some beautiful horses out there, but eventually they'll end up at the glue factory. So let's put this tanking period into the glue factory and move on. There's so much excitement about what's coming for this Utah Jazz franchise. I cannot wait for the next chapter. It's going to be great. And that chapter starts as soon as that Lakers game ends and 1-2-3 Cancun on Sunday. So, all right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll do a top 10 on JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon right here to JJ and Alex for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. It's Masters weekend, so a top 10 has to be golf related. Now, you and Alex, you golf historians here?
Historians, no.
Okay, well,
but I like. Golf.
I might be embarrassing you guys here. I'm sorry, but I had to do something golf related. But I feel like it's as easy as I could possibly do it. I'm going to ask you guys to name the list of the golfers with the most major wins. The top 10 golfers with the most major wins. Now, throw that out there. You'll probably get but you go. You're free to throw it out there. And the minute you got, just start. whatever, Happy Gilmore, throw it out there, Just take your shot. But some of these guys have the same amount of major wins, but we'll go with the top 10 on this list as far as it goes down to some of these ties. So
top 10 major wins.
Top 10 golfers with the most major wins all time. So you're basically trying to think of the most popular, most well-known golfers of all time.
Right.
And you're going to have to go back in time a little bit. Here we go. Put the timer on. Whenever you're ready, go.
Jack Nicklaus.
Boom. Number 1, 18.
Tiger Woods.
Boom. Number 2, 15. Good start.
Arnold Palmer.
Boom. Tied for 7. He's tied with a group for 7.
Jack Nicklaus. Whoever was Tiger's. Phil Mickelson.
Did not make the top 10 here, but he did win 6.
Okay.
We're looking for 7 or more.
I just said Bubba Wallace in my head.
Bubba Wallace? Nope.
Yeah, that's NASCAR. I had all these heads before we started, and now they're all leaving me.
So you got Palmer, Woods, and Nicklaus.
Palmer, Woods, Nicklaus. Gosh dang it. Who's the Watson guy?
You got it. I'll give you it. Tom Watson. 8 major wins.
And I'm out. I can't think of anything.
You did all right.
No, man. I went blank.
That's not easy.
I couldn't even think of the guys who we were just talking about in the first segment.
You got most of the modern names, and throwing Mickelson out there was smart. He just barely misses this list with 6 major victories. I'll go from the top. You got Jack Nicklaus with 18 majors. Tiger Woods, 15 majors. You got to go way back for this one. Between 1914 and 1929, Walter Hagen had 11 major victories.
I would have never.
Another oldie but goodie, Ben Hogan, 9 majors from 1946 to 53. This is a big name, Gary Player. Yeah, still kicking it. He was at the Masters this year.
I saw him and at the Nicklaus and Watson do the kickoff for the Masters.
He had 9 major wins between 1959 and 1978.
Gary Player.
You got Tom Watson with 8 from 1975 to 83. Bobby Jones with 7 major victories from 1923 to 1930. Arnold Palmer you got from 58 to 64. He had 7 wins. Gene Sarazen comes in with 7 majors. And Sam Snead. I would have given you Harry Vardon because those guys were all tied for 7 majors. Just missing the cut. Nick Faldo, Phil Mickelson, and Lee Trevino with 6 major victories. Some modern names that are closing in on that top list. Brooks Koepka and Rory McIlroy have 5 major victories.
That's what I was going to...
Rory might get his 6th here shortly.
I was going to see if Rory was close, but
he's getting there.
That's nice. Yeah, he's been doing well these last years. I was surprised John Daly's not on there.
He couldn't lay off the Coors Light.
The cigars
came up just short.
He's on it.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Steve Bartle will join us. We're going to talk Utes. Spring football continues, and we'll see how they're doing up on the hill next on JJ and Alex 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.